Such a nice name. What? But such a dumb theory. How much time do I have? There is no limit. Okay. What's the aim? Emanuel Swedenborg. Such a nice name. What? But such a dumb theory. Anyway, that's ethnocentrism. I'm approaching this theory with an ethnocentric mindset. Flat disc-shaped rotating cloud of gas and dust, gradually contracted and condensed under its own gravitational field to form the sun. Okay. Is this evolution? Okay, it probably supports evolution because it's probably an ongoing process. My gosh. So how do I even word this? Uniformity. Farm. This is supposed to be sort of a mind map, but I'm doing it in my own format. Emmanuel who? Why would I write Emmanuel with one M? Melissa. Anyway, maybe that's how I saw it on Google. Swedenborg. Sounds Russian? Okay, it's also it's Russia, Switzerland. You know what I'm saying? Emmanuel Swedenborg. Uniformitarian nebula theory. Man, I feel like his name should be inside here somewhere to make it easy to remember. The idea that a flat disc-shaped cloud, condensed and contracted within its own. In communication skills, I was taught that reading while speaking is not good, but it works for me. Do what works for you. Gravitational field. So, Uniformitarian Nebula Theory by Emanuel Swedenborg is a theory that would explain the creation of the solar system through a flat disk-shaped cloud that condensed and contracted under its own gravitational field to form the sun. Is that it? Yeah. You know, scientists, they claim to not believe in God or anything that is God-like, so much so that they reject the God particle being called the God particle simply because it has the word God in it. But the main reason they reject the whole what they call the theory of God, well, they don't call it that. I'm assuming it is a theory to them. That is why I'm calling it that. Is because they need evidence to support every single thing. But is there evidence of this scientific theory? Like, is there evidence of evolution? Did anybody see an ape or a monkey or a gorilla or whatever transform into a human being? Did anyone see the Big Bang Theory take place? Like, the mere fact that scientists believe in gravity means they believe in a miracle. So, man, anything that is aside from the truth will always contradict itself and will always have errors. Point blank, period. Let's continue studying. But like I said earlier, I might just be approaching this with an ethnocentric mindset. Learned that word from social cultural studies. Anyway, focus. To form the sun. Then how did the other planets form? Oh, so it ended. It's not an ongoing process. So it can't be the evolution theory because evolution should be ongoing. Okay. Theory completed 4.6 billion years ago. Regular spaced rings then formed and mutated into the planets. Theory is praised for explaining the separation criticize. How do you spell criticize? All right, one theory down. Uniformitarian nebula theory by Emanuel Swedenborg, said to have been completed 4.6 years ago. Claims that the solar system was created by a disk-shaped cloud that contracted and condensed under its own gravitational field, and created the sun. Thereafter, several space rings formed and mutated into the planets. I laugh, but this is how scientists also laugh at my belief in Jesus. Anyway, let's look at another theory. Thank God it's just 2 theories. Where? Right, number 2. Catastrophic. Is this where 2 things crashed into each other? Catastrophic event theory. Don't know who created it. A passing star came so close to the sun that the gravitational force between them caused a huge tide. Like, boof. Okay. We're doing some sci-fi here now. We're doing some sci-fi. A passing star. Oh yeah, because like the sun is super hot and then a moving star is also gaining heat as it goes. Makes sense. Thank you, A-level physics. Destruction. Okay, so this is the catastrophic event theory, and then we've got the nebula, uniformitarian nebula theory about the cloud, and then you've got this catastrophic event theory about a star coming close to the sun. Gravitational force between them caused a tide, and boom, solar system was created. Criticized because it is extremely rare for 2 stars to come close to each other, and the immense temperature between the sun and a moving star is likely to cause destruction instead of creation. Yeah. Next topic. That was nice. Structure of the earth. It's not homogeneous. What is homogeneous? Homo is 1, I believe. Is it? No, I don't know. Rich core, mantle, thin crust. At the rich core. Three layers. Rich core. Mantle. And thin crust. Okay. So the ridge core consists of the inner and the outer core. Then the mantle is the mantle, and then the crust is the crust. So let's just draw it real quick. So there's inner, there's outer, there's mantle. Oh, okay, I get transition zone. Then there's this car. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Oh, that's the crust. Okay, okay. So crust. I'm gonna try label it without looking. This is the crust. Let's do inner core, outer, I believe. Outer core, lower mantle. Is it? Then this is upper mantle. But what's in between? Transition zone. Yes, inner core, outer core, lower mantle, transition zone, upper mantle. So this is the rich core. This is the rich core. The rich core, and this should be the mantle, and then the crust is the crust, crusty, dusty crust. So this is the interior. Okay, do I really need to know the distances? I can't be bothered. I honestly can't be bothered. Solid. It goes. Okay. Mantle is semi-liquid. So this is solid. This is liquid. This is semi-liquid. Huh? Oh no. Solid, liquid, semi-liquid, and then what's the crust? Solid. Compacted very well. Look at God. God is man. So this is solid. Liquid. Semi-liquid. Then this is solid. All right. Fe. What's Fe? Ion. I don't know what Fe is. Why was I writing this? Iron and nickel. Breaking down to high density materials. Peridotite. That is olivine and pyroxene. Granite and basaltic rocks. Maniite granitic. You labda si granite. All right. So that was a bit chemistry-like and geo-like. Do you believe this love conquers all? Do you believe in love? Do you believe this love conquers all? 1,255 kilometers. Thick, baby, thick. Thick. Thick, thick, thick. So after 40 minutes, I'll go over everything I've written. And for like 5 minutes before entering my second 40-minute session. Cramming is the name of the game. Well, it's not necessarily cramming. It is in cramming that I understand. FYI. So this is the mantle. 28.95. I don't think I'm gonna remember these things. It's okay. I don't think they're that necessary. Okay. Fine. So 3 layers: core, rich core, mantle, thin crust. Rich core is divided into inner and outer cores. Inner core is solid. Oh my gosh, there's an estate in Umoja called Inner Core. Inner core is solid. I don't remember the number of kilometers. Thick, 12 something, 1255 kilometers thick mainly made up of iron and nickel, I believe. Yes, the outer core is liquid in state, made up of iron 2 sulfide. Can't remember how thick it is. Then you have the mantle that is divided into 3. You've got the lower mantle, I believe, and then transitions on an upper mantle. Yes. These are semi-liquid and made up of, sounds the peridotites. Peridotites, yeah, peridotites, which are olivines and pyroxene. Can't be bothered to know how thick it is. Okay. Semi-liquid peridotites that break down into more dense, high density materials across the transition zone. So they're of higher density by the time they're at the upper mantle. Then you've got the thin crust that is solid, and it is mainly granitic and basaltic rocks. Am I right? I am right. Let's continue. Geological time scale. Hi. Man. This one has a lot of laws I'm seeing. This one's gonna need its own page. Or will it? I could squeeze them all here. I wonder, can I fit it? I don't think I can fit it here. Let's give it its own page. Then I can make a fire mind map. I might just post this video as like a real-time thing. Real-time study with me, not Pomodoro method. Why not Pomodoro? Because I believe, well, not believe, but personally I feel like in 20 minutes, if I'm taking a break every 20 minutes, I won't really get into the groove of studying, because it is in those 20 minutes that Sasa, I'll be like, we're getting into it, you know. But if I'm breaking every 20 minutes, I don't think I would be getting into the groove of studying. Concept of time is central to geology. Geological time is classified into relative and absolute. So that's where we begin. The title will be geological time. Then I'll do a side for relative and I'll do a side for absolute. So this is gonna be like both pages. Then I'll go to the geological time scale. Then I'll take my break and come back and do minerals, like how to identify minerals. Then I think I'll be good for the day, because that's a lot. Then next time I can do these other things. Maybe when I come back from the salon. Because after this, I'm gonna do some drawing for my pin-up exam. Okay. Melissa, you're gonna pass this in Jesus' name. Father Lord, please let this information and deposit into my system. Relative time considers whether one event in history came before another. It disregards years. Okay, so title is geological time. All right, let's make that mind map. I'm gonna give relative time less space though, not relative, absolute. So geological, maybe I should do this from the top. Okay, that's good. Geological time. Do that, and then it's divided into relative and absolute. So those are the main things. And relative. So relative is what I'm gonna be covering at the top since it's a lot. Relative time. Okay, so absolute time gives exact ages and considers years, whereas relative time disregards years and considers events in time based on whether they came before or after others. So like if we're talking about something like AD, like after death, BC, before Christ, that would be relative, I'm assuming, because it's based on the death and the birth of Christ. Okay, that makes sense. That's relative time. Okay, so relative time, principles that determine relative time. Okay, so we're gonna go to the top, to the top, to the top. Nice. I feel like this should be on the other side. It's okay. Principles that determine what? The relative time of the formation of rocks, baby. Okay, then we have, how many principles do we have? We have 6. That's not bad at all. Okay, so principle 1 is the law of superposition. I remember this from physics. Law of superposition. And what does it say? If a rock has not been overturned, the layer at the bottom is the oldest and the top layer. What? I wrote both of them are the oldest. The layer at the top should be the youngest? Oh no, oh no, oh no. Let's Google it. Why would I write this? But I bet it's in my notes. Let us Google it. The law of superposition. Am I connected to the Wi-Fi? Yes, I am. My laptop is still on battery saver mode. Come on, Chrome. 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 Come on, man. Open. I've got, hold on. Let me type that first. Law of superposition. A major principle of stratigraphy stating that within a sequence of layers of sedimentary rock, the oldest layer is at the base. So the oldest layer is at the base. Okay, nice. Okay, let's put the laptop away. Oldest layer is at the base. Snap! Hitting things as I go. Oldest layer is at the base. The youngest layer is at the top. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the law of superposition tells me the rock at the bottom is the oldest. So since this is basically geology, if a rock has not been overturned, the layer at the bottom is the oldest and the one at the top is the youngest. So with this one, the Grand Canyon is an excellent example. I feel like the camera is shaking. Yep. Okay. Second law for relative time when it comes to rocks. But first, let's refresh ourselves. Relative time disregards years and explains the formation of rocks based on other events, basically. Whereas absolute time gives exact ages and actually considers years. So the principles that determine the relative time of the formation of rocks are 6. First one being the law of superposition, which states that if a rock has not been overturned, the layer at the bottom is the oldest and the one at the top is the youngest. Okay. Then we've got original horizontality principle. Original horizontality. What does that one say? Sedimentary strata are deposited in horizontal or nearly horizontal parallel layers. Okay. What? I don't see how that would explain the age of a rock or a fossil or a material. Sedimentary strata are deposited in horizontal. Horizontal inakuanga nini? Hivi. Sindio? Horizontal or nearly horizontal. But it depends on where you're seeing it from though. One person's horizontal is another person's vertical. I don't get it. Horizontal or nearly horizontal parallel layers. So how does that determine the age of a rock? I feel like this is tied to law of superposition. If they're horizontal and parallel, then they're on top of each other, right? Sedimentary strata are deposited in horizontal or nearly horizontal parallel layers. Hold on, let me just Google this real quick. Let's go. So what am I Googling? Original horizontality. Horizontality to explain the age of a rock. Sediments are deposited in fairly flat horizontal layers. If a sedimentary rock is found tilted, the layer was tilted after it was formed. Okay, so the tilted ones are older, because of pressure from the others. Fossil species with features that change distinctly and quickly can be used to determine the age of rock layers quite precisely. Now these ones are getting into fossils to determine the age of rocks. That one is not original horizontality. That one is fossil succession, is it? Yeah. I also take a break at 8:20. It's 8:24. Lol. But I'm not done. This is interesting. Okay. If a rock contained... No, that's a different thing. They're talking about lateral continuity. I believe that is a different one. Oh yeah, that's a different one for sure. Superposition. These laws are illustrated in... Okay. So yes, rocks are deposited in almost horizontal parallel layers. Okay. But then what? How does that determine the age of a rock or the age of a layer? Sediments are deposited in... If a sediment rock is found tilted, the layer was tilted after it was formed. Okay, fine. Does that mean that the rock is older? Because now they've just skipped it. They've gone to lateral continuity. That's weird. That was my shoulder. If a rock is found tilted, the tilted layer... Guys, I promise you I'm trying not to move this camera, but I'm just seeing it shaking as I write. If a rock is found tilted, the tilted layer was tilted after it was formed. So does that mean the tilted ones are older? I suppose, because they would experience more pressure than the newer ones for a longer period of time. But then again, if the bottom one tilts with time, then the whole thing will start tilting. So I guess the one that is tilted the most is the oldest. This is me coming up with my own theory. But this website is dope. It's called lumenlearning.com. It's explained this quite well. Okay, let's move on to the next theory, or principle rather. I don't think these are theories. Principle of lateral continuity. Reminder, Melissa, what are we doing? We are going through the principles that determine the relative time or age of rocks. Relative continuity. What is relative continuity? When materials are being deposited, sediments extend laterally in all directions. until it pinches out against the edge of the dispositional basin, like pouring water on a table. Let's see what this website has to say. Lateral continuity. Sediments are deposited in continuous sheets that span the body of water that they are deposited in. When a valley cuts through sedimentary layers, it is assumed that the rocks on either side of the valley were originally continuous. But if you're looking at this theory, the ones at the edge would be older. This is so weird. Why is this so complicated? So lateral continuity basically states that when materials are being deposited into sediments, I believe, when materials or sediments, let me call them sediments. Let's be scientific, Melissa. Deposited, they extend laterally in all directions until they pinch out against the edges of their dispositional basin. Right. So there's no description on how to determine which one is old and which one is not here. But let's look at fossil succession. I've been studying for 50 minutes now. Fossil succession, fossils that remain. Okay, fossils are remains of past living organisms. Okay, that's fine. They are contained in rocks that can be used to determine the relative age. Fossils, remains of past living organisms. Organisms can be found in rocks and therefore used to determine the relative age of their, let's say, host rocks. Yeah. Since different fossils are unique to particular ages, right, what's the next one? Law of cross-cutting. Cross-cutting, what relationship? Cross-cutting, I remember I really had an issue with it, but I understand it very well now because I asked questions, guys. Ask questions in class, please. ask questions. So the law of cross-cutting relationship states that a structure or rock is always younger than the rock that it cuts across. Makes sense. The what? A rock is always younger than the rock it cuts across. I'm just quoting the actual principles. Okay. A rock is always younger than the rock it cuts across. Cutting across is basically when magma escapes from under the earth. I don't think I need to write that. If I've got this in mind and I understand it, I'll be able to explain it. But let's just read through it though. Cutting across is basically when magma escapes from under the Earth's crust to form igneous rocks that squeeze in between existing rocks. The intrusive rocks are called dikes, specifically for the vertical intrusive rocks. Horizontally intrusive rocks are called seals. Okay. So there's a lot of content here. Let's see how I can word that. But the principle itself, the law of cross-cutting relationship, is a rock is always younger than the rock it cuts across. So under this, magma escapes from the earth and squeezes in between existing rocks. Squeezes in between existing rocks. To cool into new rocks. So when the magma cuts across vertically, it is called a dike. I realize you can spell dike with I or Y. It's your choice. I believe it's that difference of UK and USA English. When the magma cuts across vertically, it's called a dike. If it's horizontally, it is called a seal. Lines of deformation that form between separated rocks. Okay, so I should probably like underline or circle these keywords. So like dike, a seal, Then we've also got faults, e.g. the Rift Valley. Also form under this process. They are lines of deformation between separated rocks. So with cross-cutting, the magma like fills up spaces. Okay. Faults are younger than the rocks that they separated from. Oh, than the rocks that separated to form them. Can I get a visual? I wanna go to Scotland. Faults. Geology. Enter. A fault is a fracture or zone fractures between two blocks of rock. Faults allow the blocks to move relative to each other. This movement may occur rapidly in the form of an earthquake. Oh, okay. So the fault itself is a line of deformation. So the rocks within that line of deformation are younger than the rocks that actually split up to form the fault, which makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense because, like, unless they were filled, I don't know how that comes in. Principle of inclusions. I shall stop here and take a break, and then I'll come back and do the geological time scale. So it's been an hour. Principle of inclusions, which states that a rock, it states that the host of the inclusion is always younger than the younger. Oh, makes sense because the host covered it. So you'd have to cover something that's already there. Okay. Okay, so the host of an inclusion is always younger than the inclusion. Right, that's it. I don't need to write more on that. So my mind map so far. So I've covered relative time up here, and now I'm going to go down to absolute time, which isn't much, which is why I've left very little space. Maybe I should just finish it. You see, I'm in the mood, which is why I don't understand is it Pomodoro? Pomodoro? Yeah, I don't understand it because an hour in, I want to go on. So I don't understand how I would be taking breaks every 20 minutes. But recap, geological time is used to tell the time of or the age of certain rocks and minerals and naturally occurring things, basically. So it's split into two: relative time or absolute time. Relative time disregards years, and it tells the age of things, or tells the age of rocks and minerals and naturally occurring things in comparison to other events that have taken place. whether they come before or after those events. Then absolute time appreciates years, and it actually, it gives exact ages and stuff like that. So principles that determine relative time of the formation of rock. You've got 6. You've got the law of superposition, which states that if a rock remains unturned, the layer at the bottom is older than the layer at the top. Yes, if the rock remains unturned. A good example of this is the Grand Canyon. Then you've got the principle of original horizontality, which states that sediments are deposited in layers that are horizontal or almost horizontal to each other and parallel as well. And with time, the layers begin to bend. So I am assuming that the ones that have bent more are the older ones because of more pressure and, just being there for a longer period of time. Then you've got lateral continuity, which, what does it say? When materials or sediments are being deposited, they extend laterally in all directions until they pinch out against the edges of their dispositional basin. So sediments are deposited into their dispositional basins and they spread out laterally until they pinch out at the edges or against the edges of their dispositional basins. How does that describe age? I am assuming if you're looking at something like that, then the rocks at the outer parts of the dispositional basin should be older than the ones towards the center. Then you've got the principle of fossil succession, which basically uses fossils that are within rocks to determine the age of rocks, since majority of fossils, if not all, are unique to certain time periods and ages and eras and stuff like that. Then you've got the law of cross-cutting relationship, which basically states that the rock that cuts across another is always younger than the rock that it is cutting across. So explanation of this is magma escapes from within the earth, the interior of the earth, which we just talked about, the inner core, the outer core, the lower mantle, the transition zone, and then the upper mantle, and then the crust. So magma escapes from the interior of the earth and it cuts across, or it fills up random spaces in sedimentary rocks to form igneous rocks within sedimentary rocks. And then when that happens, when you see that, the one that has filled up a space or cut across a rock is the younger one. If it cuts across vertically, it is known as a dike. If it cuts across horizontally, it is known as a seal. Faults are also somehow in association with this process. A great example of a fault is the Rift Valley. They are usually formed as a result of earthquakes and other heavily impactful land occurrences. So a fault is basically a line of demarcation indicating that rocks split. So the rocks within or along the faults are younger than the ones on the rocks that actually separated. Then finally, you've got the principle of inclusions, which states that the host of the inclusion is always younger than the inclusion. That one is pretty straightforward. Because for there to be an inclusion, the inclusion would have to exist for it to be covered and be hosted. So of course, whatever is covering it would be younger because it has come after it. Nice. Let's move to absolute time. But let's take a break first.